No further ado, Patrick Collison, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, can you guys hear me all right? Cool. So I've noticed a bunch of beers out and stuff, so rather than give a closing talk, I think I want to give a closing thought. And I guess when Dave was kind enough to invite me, I was kind of given a bit of a hard time over the conference name, and he, of course, had the last laugh. Here I am, the ultimate in unsexiness as the last speaker. So, but I guess everyone who knows me already knew that. Stripe, for anybody who doesn't know it, is a payments company. We want to be the best way to accept payments on the internet. We launched, it'll be 2 years ago this September. We now process billions of dollars a year, millions of dollars a day. We've sort of tons of companies that we ourselves really look up to. We're used by startups, by sort of small little operations, by side projects that are just getting started, and also by Walmart and Rackspace and sort of all these really large operations. And you know, it's payments, right? And it's core infrastructure. And you know, there's thousands, millions, billions of API requests, and sort of it really needs to be extraordinarily scalable and robust. And despite that, pretty much everything that we did in order to build the product or obtain users or sort of anything like this was kind of horrendously unscalable. And so when thinking about what I should say here, you know, I thought a bit about it, and I've always really liked the advice: make something people want. You know, it's pretty obvious. I think it's a good North Star if you're going to pick anything. But I was wondering, what would you add to that? What's that missing? And the best thing I could come up with is the following: always maximize user happiness. And what does that mean? I mean, that sounds something like a platitude. Well, really what I mean is sort of the first two parts in particular, the always and the maximize. I think the kind of received wisdom in startupdom that you need to be scalable, that you need to have all this infrastructure that can grow to any size is absolutely wrong. It is completely and utterly misguided. What you should be doing at every stage of the startup and kind of reevaluating as you grow is how you could possibly be providing the most happiness that you can to your user base. And so to give you an example, well, you know, when we started working on Stripe, it had no users, and we decided to go on vacation for a few weeks to build the first version of the product. We went to Buenos Aires because it was cheap and because we could sort of work, you know, uninterrupted without feeling guilty about not hanging out with our friends. And there was this one guy that we really wanted to get as a user of Stripe. He was a friend of ours, and so you know we went and built what we thought he needed, and we then asked him to use it, and you know, turns out he couldn't because he needed support for Active Merchant, which is this library he was using, and so we went and like wrote code to support Active Merchant, so it came back to him, whatever, and then he finally agreed to use the service. He signed up, and then we went and we applied for a merchant account on his behalf. We hadn't actually built out any of the infrastructure to do the payment processing or anything like that. We just built the bare minimum that get him to become a user and sort of got that relationship in place. And this was the story of Stripe's early customer acquisition. We got back to San Francisco. We went and met another friend at Coffee Bar. I'm sure you guys, many of you have been there. And again, we went and wrote a bunch of custom code in order to get this user onto our platform. It was completely unscalable. The third user and the fourth and the fifth and so on, and actually a bunch of them were 500 startups companies, folks like PickPlum. I went to their house one evening in order to get them integrated, or in Dinero or whatever. We just did all this manual work. And you know, maybe you can understand that, okay, well, I guess it makes sense when you've no users, you should do all this unscalable stuff in order to sort of get a little bit of the flywheel going or sort of obtain some kind of momentum. But it doesn't stop there. For pretty much every feature we've ever built, or kind of any aspect of the product, we've been ruthlessly unscalable about it. And so, for example, you know, with support, you know, if Stripe is going to be successful, we need to have a scalable answer to support. We need sort of some kind of ticketing system and some way of managing it, and maybe some people who are dedicated to the support role or whatever it is. For Stripe, right through to when we launched, right through to thousands of customers, the answer to support was every email went to everybody's inbox. It was completely unscalable, and it worked fantastically well. We also had a chat room where users could come and interactively ask us questions. Actually, we still have one today. Completely unscalable, but provided a wonderful experience for our users. And in fact, it was so good and made them so happy that we realized that there were some users who were being left sad when they came to our chat room at 3 a.m. at night and we weren't there. And so we hooked our chat room up to PagerDuty. So when a user would come in late at night and request some support and we weren't there, one of us would just randomly get paged. And it provided this wonderful experience for them. You guys have probably all, I mean, it's crazy. You have to just be maniacal about this stuff. You guys have probably all heard the stories of PayPal and Max Levchin and their amazing fraud systems. Again, it's pretty clear if you're setting out to build a payments company, you are, in fact, going to need to have wonderful fraud systems. Stripe's fraud system for a very long time was somebody looked at every single one of the transactions. And it worked fantastically well. It was, in fact, better than PayPal's fraud system because, I mean, not that that's high bar, but no, it was better than PayPal's fraud system because it's actually incredibly difficult to build an algorithm that's better than a human just doing the work. A lot of our users, it turned out, were software as a service companies, and so we built some subscription billing infrastructure. We rolled it out to our users, and when we were building it, we really wanted to start getting feedback as quickly as possible, and so we built the code you need to sort of set up some plans and put customers on them and set the prices and stuff like this. And we rolled it out to some of our beta users, and we started getting feedback from them. And we hadn't actually finished it. We hadn't built the code that would charge the users at the end of the month. But we had a month to do that, and it was really valuable to start getting the feedback immediately. I think I wrote down 1 or 2 more examples here. Oh yeah, and then my favorite one of all is when we launched. Again, we had, I can't remember how many users it was, but it was well into the thousands. We went and we wrote a thank you card to every single one of them, signed by every person on the team. And even today, these users bring this stuff up with us, like, oh yeah, you're the guys that the only company ever basically to say, send me a handwritten thing in the mail. It's completely unscalable and it works fantastically well. I think the part that's, again, kind of non-obvious here is, especially for B2B businesses or perhaps unsexy businesses, this never stops. It's been really interesting to me to sort of look, I mean, it's not like I came into this an expert or anything, but to learn more about the history of enterprise companies and sort of enterprise sales and how all this stuff works. And if you look at a company like Oracle or something like this, they actually pursue sort of fantastically unscalable strategies for customer acquisition and retention. If you're deciding sort of, what ERP system you're going to use or what database or whatever it is, you're probably going to want to choose the system that is used by sort of the companies you look up to or the leaders in your industry or whatever it is. And if you look at how Oracle gets and retains those customers, it's basically Larry Ellison on the phone with them or like flying to meet with them or whatever it is. The unscalability never actually stops. And so I think that's something that's really important. You need to sort of design it and bake it into your process from the start. Right, and so I was trying to think of, how you should mutate the received wisdom of sort of do scalable things. And I think what you want to take away is you should maximize user happiness, and you should do some some things that will scale some of the time at some point. You do not need to figure it out up front. As it happens, and this is, I think, my favorite example of all, my girlfriend has been learning to code recently, and she's gone and built a bunch of side projects, and she's launched them, she's gotten feedback, whatever, and sort of rather than going and taking some class, whatever, she has just built things and launched them. And she launched this sort of Goodreads-like service called Collison. It's sort of for people who are really into books, and it had these amazing social interactions in that when you create an account, it would send you an email every time one of your friends signs up, and then every time one of your friends shelves a particularly good book, not just any book because that'd be kind of annoying, but a particularly good book, it would email you. And I had these like really wonderful sort of weekly digest emails, sort of like Quora, but they're sort of really well thought out and customized for every user. Like, how did she do that? How did she build these like amazing ML algorithms or whatever? I mean, she didn't, of course. She's like looking at all of the activity on the site and like writing all these emails, right? she called it gerbling. The gerbils were sending all these wonderful emails. And I think that's exactly the right approach. So long as you think there's any chance that you can figure this stuff out down the line, you should be pursuing unscalable strategies that get you to the next level. And, I kind of think that this is actually sort of a very nice realization to have because, if you're sort of always concerned about sort of scalability and the long term and how you can possibly make this work at 1 billion users and tens of millions, whatever, I mean, it's really hard. Who the hell knows how to solve all those problems? But if you're just pursuing sort of a shorter term hill climbing algorithm of like every day waking up in the morning and thinking, how could I just, for the scale that I'm at, make users the happiest they could possibly be, that's actually a much easier and sort of more enjoyable question to answer. And so I sort of think, when you talk to old people and you ask them what they regret, they often allude to things like, I wish I'd been more generous or kinder, or I'd sort of made the people around me happier. I think we should apply the exact same things to our company. And you should always be trying to figure out how to maximize user happiness in unscalable ways. Thank you.